Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar AI as your UX research assistant. Yeah, it's so cool to see you all here today. And yeah, thank you all for joining us definitely today. Yeah, AI is still like a very discussed topic. It's all over and everywhere and also in UX research. So yeah, today we want to talk about AI in UX research, and want to see if it's just a hype or if it's really a helper. Yeah, so a special thanks to Marc Busch, who's doing the webinar with me today. He's a UX researcher for over 15 years, and I'm Paula Süßmeier, product marketing specialist at Userbrain. And yeah, for the ones who don't know, Userbrain is specialized in unmoderated user testing. And of course, we also do have like a few AI features. And yeah, I don't want to reveal too much like now upfront, but yeah, we're going to talk about how and why AI works good with unmoderated user testing. And while we still wait for everyone to join and jump in to this webinar, would be cool if you just share in the chat. You have like the chat tab where you're located. Yeah, it's always like pretty cool to see where the people are from, and yeah, that's great. Okay, so I see Vienna, London, UK,
Hi, Vienna.
Chicago. Wow. Okay, I oh so many people, crazy. Okay, I see. Welcome everyone. So cool. So many people. I'm really positively surprised. I'm happy to have you all here. Um, cool. So yeah, today's session. Um, First of all, we will have a bit of a theory about AI and UX research. Yeah, as it seems like kind of every week there's like a new AI tool popping up and promising to automate everything. We want to cut a bit through that noise and see what AI is actually good at and maybe what not, because it's not the solution for everything, but for a lot of things. Yeah, and after that, we want to show you a practical workflow, how to leverage AI with unmoderated user testing. And in the end, of course, we will have a little Q&A session. Talking about Q&A, I think you all figured out where the chat tab is, and next to it, you have the questions tab. And it would be super, super cool if you just put all of your questions in the question tab so we can answer them in the end. And you have also the option to upvote the questions. Feel free to do so. Yeah, and for starters, I prepared a little poll. And yeah, we would be interested in if you're already using AI in your UX research. I will publish the poll now. So next to the question tab, you have a polls tab. If you don't see the poll, there are three dots, and just click on the three dots and you can see the poll. It just got published, so it would be super cool if you could just vote quickly. That would be awesome. And cool, yeah. I think that's enough for me for now. And with this, I would give over to Mike.
Paula, thanks a lot. It's great to be here. Hi, all in the webinar. It's really cool that you made it. I'm Marc Busch. I'm a UX researcher. And we start first with a little deep dive into how to think about AI in UX research. And to make a bit of a basis for you, or as a little reminder, so in user tests, we're evaluating user experience. And user experience is not a standalone construct, but it's influenced by a lot of other constructs, for example, usability, the ease of use, the usefulness. So if people think that something is easy to use, and also the accessibility, which means do people have at least basic access to a product or service. And the good UX leads to a behavior that we want. That can be, for example, conversion, retention, loyalty, and so on. And one of the points why AI is so good for UX research is a pretty basic thought, but AI is actually really good at dissecting and sorting these constructs and mapping issues. So either usability issues, either UX issues, or behavioral issues onto our findings. And what does that mean? So here are some heuristics, some broader guidelines how to think about AI. So we don't want to dive deep into some large language models. So just a disclaimer: when we say AI, we mean large language models. And one thing that helped me really understand the capabilities of AI, especially in UX research, is to look at the architecture that is behind. And if you simply think about what ChatGPT stands for, so the T in ChatGPT stands for transformer. And I think about AI, and this is also something that helped me and also like other teams a lot, not as a machine for knowledge or fact generation, but for transforming input into output. So the input could be, let's say, a feedback that a user said about the website, that you captured in an unmoderated user test, and now you want to map it into onto constructs such as usability, such as UX. So this is the first thing. It's a heavy lifting task that normally costs a lot of cognitive effort, and AI can do a first pass and help you with that. This mapping issues, the things that you saw. So when people are frustrated, when people don't know where to click, when people go back and forth, AI is good at least the first pass. Like you cannot like fully turn your brain off, but at least the first pass to map these things onto what you're actually looking for, to know what you should change in the design. Some bit of academic concept, but that was also a bit of a game changer for me in terms of how to think about AI, is taxonomies and ontologies. A taxonomy is a controlled vocabulary. And if you think about the information architecture that you have on your website or your shop, the way you name things, and also the ontologies, the way these things relate, AI is incredibly good at knowing these relationships, these vocabularies, and putting it on a higher level. So let's say if users express frustration about something, AI is good at telling you which kind of concept this belongs to, and helps you map this. And also one of the things why we never, for example, only test with like one user or just have an anecdotal evidence, is that we essentially in UX research want to identify recurring patterns. And AI as a pattern machine is pretty good at identifying patterns. And then again, it's a first pass. So if you're a designer, a researcher, or a product manager, you have your domain knowledge, you have all your contextual knowledge, and AI can do the first heavy lifting for you and guide you into the right way. A common question is, are we going to be replaced now? Do we have a job? So at least I still have a job. So what are your roles that you have to convey now when AI does some of the more heavy lifting for you? The first is the strategic framing. So it's not a secret that UX research can only be fully successful when we can identify business goals that we need to have answered with research, and map these business goals clearly on research question, and also communicate that. The next thing is always a critical validation. You might have heard about that some people complain that AI makes up things, is hallucinating. That's more a feature than a bug. And if you apply the heuristics that I presented you before, you don't think of AI as a fact or knowledge generation machine, but as a transformation machine that transform input into output, and you still have to supervise what's happening with all your knowledge that you have, with all your experience and your expertise in the domain that you're working in. And then probably the most important point, you can do a lot of research. It does not have the effect that it can have if you don't drive these insights into actual changes into the design or into the product. So the communication is still your part, and this should not be outsourced to AI yet. Why does AI especially work so well for unmoderated user tests? We could talk about a lot of areas in UX research. Today's focus is unmoderated user test. And an unmoderated user test, the difference between just talking to people is the structured approach. So you might have heard about the academic term tidy data. That means data that is in a specific format, and it avoids a RAG-RAG approach. So when we're talking about AI in unmoderated user tests, it does not mean, for example, AI moderated interviews where people are probed in different ways and we create this data RAG-RAG, but we all want to have clearly separated in tasks, in observations, in indicators to be able to identify the patterns, to aggregate with the help of AI, and to have a clear analysis. In all other ways, we cannot say clear things, or we cannot have clear evidence from the data. And then also something that we're going to show in the Userbrain platform later is AI can help you to have a good suggestion from a scenario, a product, to a concrete test plan. And this is especially helpful for people that come more from the product management or design role, which are not so accustomed to the structure that test plans need to enable a good analysis. And then one of the tasks where I also personally found AI is pretty good at is qualitative thematic analysis, which is the mapping of issues that you found to concepts like usability or user experience or accessibility flow, can also be other concepts. So early takeaways already now in the webinar is think of AI as a capable but brand new coworker. And just as a coworker, they know nothing about your context, about the history of a product in an organization. So a product in an organization always lives, and you have to tell the AI these things. The AI does not know it, and the AI does exactly the things that you tell, but cannot know the things that you don't tell. And as a researcher, but also as a designer or product manager, you still co-create, you moderate the AI output, and you connect the insights to the business outcomes. That's still something where AI maybe in the future can help you more, but now we focus on the core tasks of creating a suggestion for a task plan and helping with analysis. How to get started. So next we will jump into a workflow, but to get your mindset ready for that, think about a product, a research goal, and or a scenario. And also think about all the context-specific information that you have. Like I said before, not even an AI can read your mind. And even in the times of AI, I saw a lot of people going into tests before testing the actual test setups, the scenarios, the tasks. Your role is still to do a sanity check of all the things before you go live. This is the end of the theory session.
Okay, Marc. Yeah, thank you so much for this theoretical start. Really, really cool. And of course, we want to see that in action now. So I would say we can dive right into, how to use AI and leverage AI in unmoderated user testing with Userbrain.
So now what you see is the dashboard of the Userbrain platform. Userbrain is specialized on unmoderated user tests, which you see here has the test that I already have. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is how to create a new test and how to use AI for that. So in this example, we create a test for a website. You can also create tests for mobile apps or prototypes. And we are going to test a cheese shop, a local shop that also, since COVID, sells cheese. We enter the URL. the language. Most of the tests of user tests are 5 to 20 minutes. That's not something that comes from Userbrain, but that's a general thing because most interactions don't take longer. And what the most important things to have a successful test and to collect useful feedback and data is to specify tasks. And that's a thing that has historically been always hard because developers might, for example, think about more technical tasks, but not the user goals. And we select auto create with AI. And here you have this chat box. And now you have two approaches. You could really only give a keyword, let's say cheese shop. And the AI would be smart enough, especially in the Userbrain platform, to know a shop has certain elements, has certain things like conversion rates that needs to be studied. But for this example, we're going to tell a little more. So you say, I have a cheese shop. And let's say you already suspect, you have an intuition. I think that the filters for comparing cheese are not sufficient. So a common issue for online shops is filtering for products. And as a product owner of the shop, you have the same suspicion. So we feed the AI this and create the tasks. And again, you could have also just said, I have a cheese shop and see what AI does. This is a bit of an experimental iterative thing. I would always suggest to try this several times and not take the first thing until you really are satisfied. Also, and this is really critical, you see here the structure of the task that the AI suggested. You have tasks where people need to do things, need to find things, need to complete things. The AI suggests some rating scales that are in a standard format. The AI also goes well into, you see here, takes the input data set seriously and thought about how to compare cheeses on the basis of flavor, texture, origin, or milk type, something that the AI suspects might be useful for the customers in this shop. And some other tasks and rating scales. And again, you can change all these things here. You don't have to take it as given, but if you as a, let's say, product owner think you want to put the emphasis on something else, the AI gives you a first suggestion, but you as a researcher, as a designer, still have to put a final touch into it. We have already prepared an example, so we don't get to the testers here, but in a regular Userbrain flow, you would directly go into the testers here. That was how to create a test. I will close that window. And one important point before we go into how the results look like is to really, again, think about why the structure that an AI gives you really levels up your unmoderated test, because the AI makes sure that you don't miss anything, that you don't put too much information into tasks, that you have the tasks in your online shop and the steps that people do separately. And this is really the only way to be able to analyze, to aggregate, and to analyze it in a meaningful way. And in my 15 years of UX researcher, when I have seen issues of teams that cannot analyze data, is when they have taken an unstructured approach before, and then AI can really help you with that. So to get the suspense going, now we come to the insights. So this was the test. It already happened before the webinar. We let it run yesterday. And the first thing that I'm going to show you directly here is the AI insights. So for the cheese shop, we ran the test. And what you have here is exactly what I told you before. So this is a qualitative thematic analysis. So the results are clustered into themes, into tags, into categories. Different people name it a bit different. And when you look up different internet sources, you might find different names, but this is exactly that. So one finding, that was clustered under positive feedback was that, for example, the gifting process in the shop seems to be easy, straightforward, with clear navigation. Again, you need to do critical validation. So don't take it as it is, but have a deep dive into what happens here. What was the quote that was referring to this point? You here have one of the concepts that I told before, usability issues. And as we suspected, as a product owner, the product comparison and filtering options indeed seems to be insufficient. And this also shows that it affected more testers than just one. We had 6 testers for this project, and you can do a deep dive here. You have several categories like confusion, negative feedback, and also user behavior. And this gives you a first mapping of the issues found into the higher level concepts, and you can now tackle these concepts one by one. So maybe you start first with the usability problems, then you look at the behavioral issues, and so on, and the negative feedback, and also the suggestions that people have. One important thing still in the age of AI, so UX research always have the problem, do I watch all the research sessions? You could, of course, and it also makes sense sometimes, but with AI, it can highlight the clips.
Unfortunately, it was a bit of a difficulty to.
So this was a clip of a test person that you don't have to go through the whole video to find exactly that clip, but the AI already gives you the snippets and the clips that are related to that problem, so you can also check. You can also use a feature which I call always, you can chat with your data. So if you ask Userbrain here, and this is already something that I predefined. So this is something that I typed in, did not came from Userbrain. You can actually type in what you want. And of course, as a product owner, I want to know what's the number one issue that needs to be fixed to increase the conversion. So when I put that, it searches for the answers. And this would be one thing. If I don't have a lot of time, the AI identifies that a lack of effective product comparison and filtering is the primary issue hindering the conversion. Conversion in an online shop is the most important thing. So the AI cut through the noise, gave me the actual signal. It's also a good sign always when I suspected that this was a problem, that this was an issue, and if it does not come from nothing, and so here I have my answer. I can also ask other questions that I want to have. And again, I could also, if I'm a bit skeptical and think maybe the AI is hallucinating, I go into the usability issue directly, because correctly, the AI identifies that comparison and filtering in online shop is indeed a usability issue. This also helps internally to distribute who of your team members, so in this case, the UI designer or the interaction designer, should tackle that problem. Some problems maybe need to be solved by the marketing department when it comes to copy. Some problems needs to be solved by the technical department when users encounter technical issues, which they should not in a user test, because the product should already be so far that it's not only a bug searching, but really about user experience and usability. But in reality, it's often not the case. And if you're really skeptical, you can also really look into the single test persons. Also, again, you could play the clips, and the difference between before AI and now in times of AI is before AI, you would have also to put trust, for example, in colleagues, in team members that separate to watch the clips. Maybe they have different taxonomies in tagging or flagging problems. Maybe they understand things differently. So in AI, in times of AI and using AI in UX research. It does not mean you outsource your critical thinking and everything to the AI, but you look for the things where AI can point you into the issues or the things that you need to have a better look at, basically. Which again does not mean that you need to trust it. And for example, the Userbrain platform makes it really easy to show it to you why this was also identified in that case. So you can look through the single quotes and issues and also check if it's assigned to the correct category or overall theme. This is the AI insights. Also, an AI can, of course, help you to make a first draft of a report. So when we just look at a summary, different organizations have different ways of reporting results of a user test. But when you see here the presentation, for example, of successful or not successful tasks, that people needed to do on this online shop. So, for example, to compare cheese, to check out, to check the tracking information, maybe return an order. I want to refer back to the point that I made before, that AI in unmoderated user tests fits so good because it keeps the structure of the tasks. It does not mash indicators or questions or tasks into one, what sometimes happens if you, for example, just upload transcripts into ChatGPT, or if you have some other uses of AI. So AI is also not AI. The large language model in the Userbrain platform has already a structure that fits for unmoderated user tests, and it keeps that structure. And again, this is especially useful for more junior people or people that maybe not have a lot of experience in user testing or in usability tests. So again, you don't have to blindly trust it. You see exactly why the AI deemed that certain things were successful or not. Then you have an analysis of the rating scales, which comes quite handy. And of course, you can download all the data, and then if you're really skeptical, let another AI, another large language model, do an analysis. So of course, that's also possible for the very skeptical people. I know some people that only trust the outcome of an AI if different models give more or less the same outcome. Yes, so this is would be the structure of a report for an unmoderated user test for this cheese shop. And one really good thing that an AI, the large language model, did for us is to save us a lot of time. And what also happens in teams regularly is that they don't act on the results immediately. So sometimes teams get the results fast, but then they need a bit of time to brainstorm, to meet, to think a bit about what it means for future design iterations. And in my experience, when that happens, the memory of the presentation, the research sessions itself, or the results fade a bit. And team members might have specific questions. And when you have an unmoderated user test where you applied AI to help to analyze the results, you can always go back to this chat feature and ask more specific details, also to refresh your memory and also to see, have you forgotten something? You can use the AI really as a sparring partner. I think I hope I stressed this enough. Because also a coworker, you would not blindly trust a coworker, especially a brand new coworker, with everything, but you would always probe, you would always see, did the coworker something wrong? Why did the coworker come to the conclusion? So that's also some conversation that you can have with an AI. And in my experience, sometimes I also get emotional when I talk to an AI, because sometimes I think maybe I don't understand a point, and then I ask again. So really, you need to go into like a conversation. And similar to the feature where you can create test plans, you really need to probe also the results, look at it from different angles. But again, and this is just my experience. In terms of AI, there is no need to comb several times through all research sessions. And I do UX research for 15 years now. So for me, it was also hard a bit to let go of some tasks that I did really good, for example, like qualitative thematic analysis. But some things I do not miss, like, for example, looking for some quote that a user said in a session that was a bit longer. And also when you tested more people, that can amount easily to several hours of recordings of research sessions in the evening, nights, and sometimes even weekends that I combed through these. I will definitely not miss. So I would invite you to think about AI critically, look at the results that it gives you. And for the first 2 or 3 times, I can also tell you I did a manual qualitative thematic analysis for the things that you did, and wanted to know if I categorize these findings into at least similar categories, if I saw that these quotes or these issues that the AI identified were really a usability issue, were really targeting, for example, the product comparison when you see here. But after several times, I became more confident. And I think what we see now is, when the first AI hype was a bit over, that people find like a useful, like a productive relationship with AI. Not overhype it, not pretend that it from one day to another can do all your work and there's nothing left for you, but can be accustomed to the thought that you now have more time to more critically think about the outcomes, and you don't have to think so much about the test logistics, because the AI can do the first suggestion for a test plan for you. You have the bit of the solution for the blank page problem, where you maybe could not come up with a test plan from scratch, or come through blog posts, or reuse old test plans again and again that maybe were not really suited to the product that you're targeting. So AI can definitely be a good use here. And in 2025, we roughly now had 2 or 3 years to get accustomed to the workings of AI, what AI can do and what AI cannot do. And I think that, for example, the use cases that we presented here, so the creation of test plans, and also the use of the AI insights, not only for tagging, but also even more importantly, to chat about the important points. Because let's be honest, we're all pretty busy and nobody has too much time, is left from the hype. So there is no hype because it really works. And this is like a good middle ground for now. Let's see how AI evolves and in which directions it gets smarter. But these sections and these tasks can already be a good helper, a good companion for you as a researcher, designer, or product manager. Paula, this was the overview for the Userbrain workflow.
Yeah, Marc, thank you so much. Really, really cool. Yeah, for all of you, as a marketer would say, don't just take our word for it. Try it for yourself. So if you want to see it for yourself, I'm just encouraging you to start a free trial with Userbrain. And there's like no credit card needed. You have for 14 days access to all of our AI features. You get 2 free Userbrain testers and can bring 5 of your own testers. And yeah, just try it out for yourself if it will help you. And yeah, so I see there are a few questions in, and also some comments in the chat. Maybe we start with these ones. So Tobias is saying the thing is that the results of AI for analyzing unstructured data is only about 90% accurate, my estimate, but you get the results instantly. So I rather take 90% accuracy and have immediate results than spending days manually analyzing the data in order to get to 99% accuracy. I normally do some spot checking against the source data to make sure that the AI is not too off for main themes. I think you can agree on that, Mark. Did I see that right?
I think that's a pretty healthy take, and I would even say that's my feeling. I don't have hard data for that, but the structure even helps. So I would say you can get to 95%. Because if you have unstructured data, it gets like a bit worse, but then you can get a lot of just with a structure without combing through all the to all the nuances. And then let's be honest, we all know what happens after user test. Not all issues are fixed in the next iteration. So sometimes when I really look for the last thing and the last bit of nuances, I already know that maybe because sometimes we forget that we're not only testing, but some people then have to change these things. So in my experience, the top issues are addressed, and this is something that an AI is perfectly good at. So Tobias, I think I share your sentiment here.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. We have more comments from Diego. Uh, I think this isn't great advice. It's sometimes I found AI to be very unreliable when it comes to extracting significant feedback and also understanding emotions, moods of testers. What's the point of running user research if we are not willing to listen what people have to say?
That's a good point. Yeah, and I think it's not that we don't want to listen to what people have to say. Yeah, and it should not be sound dismissive, but often when we look at like what's the number one thing that we look in UX test, it's usability issues, and often usability issues are really blockers. Like when people, for example, one thing to automatically, for example, identify usability issues is when people click back and forth in apps, for example. And I would argue that this has not a lot to do with emotion. And also, we're not trying to argue that or like user tests should not be used as a means to capture only emotions. It's more about capturing blockers, capturing more design issues. I totally get what you mean. And I think there are use cases where you need to dig in deeper. I mean, we talked about unmoderated user testing, which per se is a method to remove, I would say, the 60% significant blockers. And it's especially not for nuanced things. Or, for example, if you think about branding research, they work with eye tracking, they work with software that can detect faces and emotions. I think for mood, for evaluating mood, maybe the unmoderated user test would not be the first method that I go at. But if we think about websites, if we think about apps, if we think about online shops, unmoderated user test needs to be done, especially after you release like a first version in development and also regularly after development. And as a UX researcher, I would always argue that you have a belt of methods, and for different purposes you use different methods. And if you're interested in really fine-grained emotional issues, if you want to know how the fine-grained perception is, maybe an unmoderated user test will not be the first thing that you do. And also the idea of unmoderated user test was also there before AI. So it's especially for how Userbrain calls it, for busy UX people. The reality is that especially in smart and medium enterprises where there, for example, is not a full-time user researcher, the product managers, they don't have time to talk to so much people. They might not know how. And an unmoderated user test was exactly invented for that purpose, to still get user input. So I see your point, but I would argue that AI does not more harm here, but enables more companies to adapt unmoderated user testing, especially when they do that for the first time. And if you ask me, I of course when it's a product that I work when I have the task to just identify like big significant issues, maybe I would just rely on an AI report, but I would also dig deeper. But I use it more as a guidance. Yeah. Um, I hope that answers your point. If not, feel free to have a rebuttal.
Mark, thank you so much. There's another comment about the emotions. It's if I would measure emotions, then I would rather go into the direction to collect keywords and analyze and classify in a second round, but this is only my point of view.
For
Best
example,
regards, Imre, I just have perplexity AI.
For example, Imre, what you're referring to is a sentiment analysis. You could even do that with web scraping or some other means. As I said, UX research is like a beautiful, huge field with a lot of different methods and approaches. We can do an ethnography. We could even go into companies. It's much more effortful. Not a lot of teams can do that. And I think the use of AI has to be seen nuanced in these contexts, and that's why we specifically only talked about AI for unmoderated user tests in this webinar.
Perfect. Marc, thank you so much. I will switch over now to the question tab as there are already a lot of questions in there. Um, let's see. Let's choose this one. What are the AI tools are the UX research using for the thematic analysis, and how effective are these tools?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's not easy to answer. I would say, yeah, most researchers are using classic ChatGPT. And the issue that most researchers do, they just take, for example, interview transcripts that they have, for example, collected in some telco software, and just upload into ChatGPT. And I think the frustration that people have is exactly from this method, because while it can also guide you to some patterns, it does not retain the structure, because also ChatGPT often does not know your structure that you had into these user interviews or these user tests, unless you specifically tell it. And that's why it works good in the Userbrain platform, because Userbrain is more than ChatGPT and keeps the structure. Like, Userbrain knows what an unmoderated user test needs to look like to aggregate the data and analyze the data in a meaningful way. So there are different ways. So there are these general purpose AI tools like ChatGPT, like Gemini, yeah, these foundational models that we all know, with these chat boxes where you can upload things and have a chat. And then there are more the specialized AI tools like Userbrain, which has this domain knowledge and the structure superimposed to the AI also to guide you. So there are these two like clans. Yeah. And to use ChatGPT with raw transcripts, I would argue you have to really know what you're doing. And at the moment, I don't know a lot of teams who are happy with that. And I think a lot of frustrations with AI exactly comes with that use case, and not with the more specialized and more contained use cases.
Perfect, Marc. Thank you so much for this one. Okay, let me check for the next question. I'm like in between question and chat tab, so I'm sorry if I'm not that fast as
And if
AI might be, but I think that makes me human. So okay, I'm going back to the question tab. Okay. This is another question from Panos. Is it possible to get the AI to revise a specific task rather than rebuilding the entire project? I think you're referring to the audit create, and this is currently not possible. So you would always have to start over. And yeah, and it's actually this is still you looking over it and looking over a specific task. So
I
yeah.
would also not do this, because one thing that I rely also a bit on an AI is that AI removes redundancy. And then what can sometimes happen also in interview guides, if you just revise specific questions but then not let an AI have the last check, you can have redundancy. So the way I work with an AI is really with an iterative approach, that I, for example, create the first test plan with auto create, and if I'm not fully happy with the task, I go back and specifically refer to the things that I'm not happy with, so that the AI avoids it at all, but make sure that the rest what is created fits into a coherent scheme. So this is more like a workflow thing. That's more my preference. Of course, both is possible, but I also like the AI for this feature of looking into, do I have redundant tasks, for example?
Okay, cool. I hope this could answer the question.
If not, please do a rebuttal in the chat.
Okay, let's see. I will just check for the next question. I'm sorry, I'm just like switching everywhere now. Let me see. We have the next question from Andreas. If you're using a custom model, could you elaborate on the training data process? I'm not sure what you mean exactly with that. So if you're talking about getting tips for training your own model, so yeah, anyway, I would say like there are two important things like clear rules and great examples. And don't let AI run wild, but give it like the clear rules and to follow up on great examples to draw from. So then we switch to the next question. Let me see. We answered this. Okay, Isabel asked which LLM model is behind Userbrain's solution. This would be OpenAI. Uh, okay, this question is answered, I guess. Okay, next one. Okay, Eva is asking, are the AI insights categories in which the results are summarized always the same? Yeah, Eva, in Userbrain, we always have like the same categories. So if you need anything more specific, you can just ask Userbrain, like chat with your data, and then yeah, you can get like different yeah summaries and compile insights based on what you want to know. Okay, now let's check for the next question. Okay, so it's not an AI question, but does Userbrain have multilingual user testing interfaces? Here in Canada, we need to test websites in English and French, so we need a test platform that provides a French interface for French participants. So Userbrain does not have a French interface like right now. I mean, of course, you can write your task in French, and yeah, and then invite, for example, your own users with an invitation link. But the user interface will like always be in English. But it's like really like, let's say, basic English. So most people will understand. It's like, for example, when you run a user test, they have like the little task there, and you can write these in French, for example, and then they would just have to click yes, I completed the task, which would be like still in English. But I think this should be doable. You could also like give these instructions in French in the first task, like when you introduce a little bit, like if you test with French people who might not know what this means in English, then just like tell it there or so. So yeah, it's like this would be like a little workaround for the French interface there. Okay, let's check for the next question. Okay, we have the question, is it possible to recruit expert testers for a certain subject matter? You can do that in Userbrain just using a screener question. Yeah, and then yeah, with a screener, it's possible. So let's check for the next question, and there are questions in the chat as well. Ooh, let me see. Let me see. Oh, there's so many questions here. Okay, next question. So does Userbrain have its own participant panel available, or are researchers responsible for our recruiting? Often finding participants is one of the most time-consuming parts of a project. Yeah, that's totally true. That can be like super, super time consuming. And but Userbrain, we do have a participant panel of like 150K plus user testers. So you don't have to worry about it. Like when you set up a test, you can set up your demographics. If you want to target like more let's say you only want female testers aged between 21 and 35 or so, but we do have the panel, and yeah, we'll take care of this recruiting, and you set the rules for that. And of course, if you use a screener or you have like super specific demographics, it will take longer, but I think it will be still faster if you go and find all of the participants for the project. So hope that could clear that up. Let me check. Okay, there's another question. What skills should UX researchers develop to work effectively with AI-powered tools? Marc, that looks like a question for you.
That's also like a very good question, and I think that's pretty easy to answer. The skills really do not have changed, because I could also experience that with myself. I could only evaluate if AI is useful for certain use cases if I can do these use cases by hand, like if I can do that manually. Like if I don't know, for example, what the background of qualitative thematic analysis is, or if I don't know how these things work at all, I can never understand how AI would come to the conclusions or the results that it has. So the skills are still strong methodological skills. I mean, there are different flavors of UX researchers. Some doing qualitative research. For that, of course, qualitative thematic analysis is, I think, the number one skill, to tag instances of data into categories, to be very well versed with information architecture, with mental models, with the information between information architecture and mental models, taxonomies, ontologies. You have quantitative UX researchers. You need strong statistical skills, because you could argue AI can also do data analysis. Yes, it can do this, but if you ever talk to people who you present an analysis of some statistics, they will always claim that you made up the statistics, they don't understand. So in order to even be able to interpret the AI output of, for example, quantitative UX research, you need to still need to understand the basics. When ChatGPT came out, I thought, okay, I can forget like throw books away. Yeah. This is fortunately really not the case. And I would argue that while AI levels the floor for everybody, the people who are really good at their craft, they can have even the possibility to get better, because they really can squeeze out the last bit of quality. So people always think about AI as something for speed and efficiency, which is nice. Yeah. But for researchers who really like their skill and really hone their skill, and for me personally, the getting the last bit out of quality is the last bit. So if you look at curriculums for UX research, where you have study designs, data analysis, communication of results, these skills are still very valuable in an AI world.
Cool. Okay, Mark, thank you so much. I think that answered the question. We have a next question. Uh, with auto generating tasks, how useful is it for prototypes that are more likely to have incomplete journeys? Can the platform easily take that into account via your description, or is there just more manual pruning, editing of the test script after generation? So in general, yeah, it takes it into account by just like including phrases like some things might not be working yet and so on in the task description. And yeah, you can definitely also do some like manual editing to include, for example, like redirects or yeah, to get people like back on track and stuff like that. Yeah, but there's something included, but yeah, of course, always check for the AI for the what the AI did, like in general. It's pretty good. It's working like pretty good. But yeah, double checking. We are still the humans, so that's never wrong. Okay, and we have another question. Okay, Mark, could this be used for moderated studies?
Um, Definitely, and I would argue that the general approach, how you think about it, the structure is the same. But again, the one thing that I need to stress, and I see a lot of teams coming to me after the data is collected and asking me how to analyze data that was collected in a very RAG style. So now it's a bit modern to have an AI probe. Um, Different questions for different people, and then, for example, you can have user tests with 100 people, you can have user interviews with 100 people. If only 3 of these people were probed for specific information, you have a hard time in convincing anybody that what you found is more than just a fleeting thing. So AI can be used for everything with caution if you know what you're doing. But I would argue it's easier to make a mess in moderated studies than in unmoderated studies. But the answer is theoretically yes, but be careful.
Okay, we do actually, I mean, we are specialized on unmoderated user testing and it's all set up for unmoderated user testing, but we also do have customers who use Userbrain for moderated user testing using like invitation links to invite their own testers, as we don't have the tester panel for moderated user testing. And then just combine Userbrain with like a Zoom interview, for example, and then still use Userbrain for all of the data and everything. So it would be possible also to use Userbrain for that. Okay, let's check for the next question. Clicking around again. Um Okay, we have here. As a follow-up on the participant panel, do you have any industry-specific panels available? Some example include doctors or other medical professionals, other very targeted fields, diseases. I've had poor experience with specific targeting using a general panel with other tools. So actually, in Userbrain, we don't have any specific panels like this. But if you have like a super specific target group, you can also always use the invite your own tester link and share it with other specific recruitment platforms if you need like really highly specific users. And then let me check. I think we got all of the questions from the chat so far.
Cool.
Okay, no, there are more questions coming in actually. Okay. Let's see. How transparent is the research process with AI? Can researchers see why it reached certain conclusions?
So I would say it's. Um, I mean, there is no definition of transparency, but I would say it's pretty transparent because for me, when an AI does not, and I hope that was clear from the presentation, does not give you the conclusion, but it gave me the issues, the identified issues, the patterns, and then the examples like the clips and also the quotes. So when you're very skeptical, like me, you're doing like a full pass and check, or at least the first 2 or 3 times, to see if the quotes were really assigned to the correct category. And so I would say for me, it's at least transparent enough that I could say, is this accurate or not, or like to which degree does this reflect what I think came into the user test. And that's also referring to the question that came before, where you still need skills, because at some point maybe you really need to watch whole research sessions to make sure that the sentiment or the experience of a tester was really correctly identified and assigned. But I think that's as far as transparency can go. And if you compare it to, for example, uploading transcripts into ChatGPT, which is really the most horrible thing that you could do, the way we saw it in Userbrain is levels more transparent.
Okay, Mark, thank you so much. I see there are also some questions in the chat. Just want to make sure that we answer everything. Um, there's one question, but when using Userbrain, how is the prompting done to ensure that the platform understands the structure of the interview? I'm not sure if I understand it right, but the structure is like provided by Userbrain, which makes it work so well because you have like the structures data and the unmoderated user testing. So I think I hope I understood the question right. And so yeah.
Maybe it referred to the question that came before with a custom model. So I think there was a bit of like a confusion. These large language models, if you let them run wild and don't have a structure, you only have a structure when you prompt it in a specific way. Since like for example, you cannot upload everything on Userbrain, like for example, a financial transcript and a transcript and have an analysis. Userbrain is for unmoderated user tests. So Userbrain works with an AI in a way that the AI is like already like guarded. The AI cannot do what it wants, but the AI, for example, knows that it has to identify tasks based on scenarios, based on user goals, and so on. And I tried this by myself, and I was surprised at the implicit knowledge that seems to be behind it. Because, for example, for like an online shop, Userbrain knows what the critical things are, and even if you don't tell it, it knows that, for example, the checkout is always the most critical thing. And so I think the structure is mainly defined by how good you can name your product category. Because then again, if the AI does really not know your product category, the AI can also only guess. But if you're going into this large language model that's already pruned to unmoderated user test, supply the product category, I don't think that you have to worry about the structure at all, at least in my experience.
Perfect, Mark. Thank you so much. There's another question. Can we use AI at every stage of UX design for good results, or should we avoid using AI for some design tasks?
Wow, that's a question. Like, how many hours do you have? Yeah. So if you
We
talk
can make
about
another webinar about that, maybe.
it's a good idea. If you talk about the whole UX design process, actually, I have no idea because I don't do design. I only do research. Yeah. So I will not tell you things that I'm not pretty sure of. I know that designers, for example, use AI for ideation, for coming up with first concepts. There are dedicated design tools that use AI. Yeah. If we're defining it, if we're narrowing down more to research, I think the two use cases that we presented today are already the prime use cases. And if you would ask me how to rank it, what is the more important use case, I think the qualitative thematic analysis in the AI insights that we have saw in Userbrain is really my prime task. Then you can again use every tool for every task, but again be critical if it makes so much sense for that. I see a lot of people wasting a lot of time trying AI for things which might not help, but then of course you can experiment. Yeah, you can learn.
Okay, perfect. Based on the time, it's already more than 1 hour having us here, and that you have to listen to us. I would say if there are not no more questions, then I think Alana is typing. So let's just wait if there's something coming in from Alana. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Lana, thank you. If you have any more questions, you can always reach out to us via support@userbrain.com. I just put it in the chat tab, and yeah, I want to thank you all for being here today,
For me too. Thanks a lot.
and yeah, joining us, and yeah, we will send you all the recording afterwards as well. And yeah, thank you so much, and hopefully see you at the next webinar.
Have a
Have
good
a nice
evening.
evening. Bye
Bye.
bye.